Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. I know it's not Halloween. Alright, that's long past. But when it came to my Halloween videos, I ran out of time and I couldn't upload everything I wanted to. So that's why I'm uploading them past Halloween. But if you stop and look at it like this, at some point in time, it's gonna be Halloween time again, October. So somebody eventually will stumble upon my videos and watch it around Halloween time. So yeah, and I'm here today to talk to you about Scream 7, the 2026 movie. Finally, this movie has come out. I have wanted to see this movie ever since it was announced. I wanted to see this movie even more when I heard Neve Campbell is coming back. I am a huge Neve Campbell fan. I am a huge Sidney Prescott fan. I have followed Neve's career since like Party of Five. She was in an episode of Are You Afraid of Dark? She was in Wild Things, you know, but I have not followed her in everything she's done. I've only seen her in those projects and Scream and Mad TV. Because she's Canadian and she stars in Canadian stuff, and a lot of that stuff just never came over here. And so, you know, I was extremely happy for her to come back because I've said this before. Scream is her franchise and hers only. For the past 30 years, you know, she's like carried that franchise on her back. And, you know, I was never happy when they started to shift in a different tone with the television show and then 5 and 6. But I still watched those and I still enjoyed them. Well, some of the TV show, not everything from the TV show, and I don't like 5, but I do like 6. But 6 is very messy in terms of writing and stuff. So I am extremely happy that she is back. You know, she is the Jamie Lee Curtis of this franchise, you know, and she has come an extremely long way. However, just because I'm a huge fan of hers and just because I'm happy this movie is back on track doesn't mean I am going to praise this movie or give it like a 10 out of 10 or be like a fanboy or anything like that. You know, I like to call things as it is. Even if like I really like it, I still find things to dislike about it. Because I like to call things right down to the middle and everything. Because not everything's perfect. And going into this movie, I really enjoyed it. It was spine tingling. It was suspenseful in moments. It was really scary in moments. I was just like, holy crap, what the heck is going to happen? But, it is not a perfect movie. The writing and creativity should have been a heck of a lot stronger. There were so many mixed opportunities that I'm just kind of like, what the world, man? Like, you could have done this, and that. Because when I say I love Scream, I love Scream. This is actually the first Scream movie I've actually watched in the theaters. I made sure this time I was not going to get spoiled like the last two movies. I deleted everything in my history Scream related. I deleted like every like YouTuber who talks about Scream. I've muted words on social media and everything. Well, that and because of the Discord, like the fandom is at each other's throats online. It's been that way for the past 2 years. And it's too much to read. So I just mute as much as possible, you know? And so, like, I just love Scream. Like, I've owned the Ghostface costume ever since 1996 when the movie came out. And that's been one of my go-to Halloween costumes for, like, decades and stuff. I own the Buck knife. All right, you can buy it online. I used to imitate Ghostface, Roger Jackson's voice to like a T and everything. Although I'm getting older now and I'm starting to lose it. I even go as far as to watch Scream fan made videos on YouTube because I am a Scream fan. This is what got me into horror and slasher movies, as I've said before. I was not allowed to watch those type of movies growing up, so I was generally scared and afraid to watch them whenever I wanted to attempt to watch it. For whatever reason, I just decided to watch Scream because I recognized Neve Campbell from Party of Five. And I'm like, okay, I'll watch this. You know what I'm saying? And I loved it. I loved it. And Scream 1 is still the best Scream, no matter what. Hands down. And in my opinion, Scream 5 is still the worst. I just don't like 5 at all. And Scream 3 is the second worst. Well, I don't know. It's a toss up between that and 6. I have to go because there's moments in both that I like and moments in both I don't. But this movie I thought is getting things back on track in the right direction. It's slowly getting back on track. Sorry, it rained all day. At first I thought I wasn't going to be able to make it to the movie theater because I don't like to go when there's lots of people in the movie theater. I try to go early in the morning when everybody's like at work or at school. And so there wasn't even that many people in my movie theater, man. It was probably like 10. And that's the way I like it. And so like, heck, what was I saying? I'm getting old. I lost track. But anyway, but this is the first Scream movie I ever saw like in theaters. And crap, what the heck was I saying? I was saying something about Scream 1 and all those other ones. And then I lost track. Crap. I lost track of what I was saying. Anyway. This movie, back on track. This is slowly getting back on track to being one of those good Scream movies. Because not every movie is like the best. 1, 2, and 4 are probably the best. Accompanied by that of like 3 and 6. And I just don't like 5. The TV show is pretty good to a certain degree. And I feel like this movie, like it really, really makes you wonder what's going to happen. It really makes you wonder who the heck is going to be the killer. You know what I'm saying? And they do some things in here that was just very shocking and surprising. Like when one of the Ghostface ended up dying very early in the middle of the movie. And it's just like, holy crap. I can't wait for the reveal. And then, oh, by the way, if you saw my intro, then you know this is spoilers. So, yeah. And I'm just like, who the heck is this? And not only did I say that, but the characters in the movie said the exact same thing. But for the most part, I think the thrills were pretty good. The suspense was pretty good. The overall execution was not. Things could have been bigger and bolder. And there are 2 major problems I have with this movie. One is all the killer reveals. I'm sorry, but what the heck? Like, this is by far the worst Ghostface reveal since Scream 6. At least Scream 6 did something I wanted it to do. Have a family be Ghostface and everything and want revenge. I got what I wanted. It just kind of acted kind of goofy. But this killer reveal just doesn't make no sense whatsoever. The other major problem I have with this movie is there is a extreme lack of character development and growth to the point where a lot of these characters in the movie are blank slates. Who are these people and what makes them them? Like, oh, now I remember what I was gonna say. This movie reminds me a lot of Scream 4. Now, I love Scream 4, but a problem I had with Scream 4 is that the movie was supposed to set up this new young cast, and the moment the legacy characters came on, you completely forget about the new cast. But at least the new cast is memorable. There are traits that makes them unique and makes them special to where you remember. Because you gotta remember, I said this one time a long time ago before when it comes to slasher. I think I was complaining about Roberto and Pretty Little Liars Original Sin, I think. I was complaining about something. And I said one of the things that Scream does very well is that you have a huge cast. You wonder who the killer is, but the movie focuses on the final girl, having her be the main focus, the main backstory, and the main motivation, and the supporting characters support. The supporting characters never take up too much space because they're there to support and everything. So you don't get their backstories, you don't get nothing like that, no big dramatic moments, but you do get character distinction that makes them all unique and makes them all different from each other. This movie does not do that whatsoever. Period. Heck, exclamation mark if you got to and everything. Like, I honestly, and I mean honestly, have no idea who any of these characters are based on their personalities alone. They all tend to dress similar. Like, all the girls dress similar, all the guys dress similar. They all tend to talk very similar. They all have the same type of personality beats that are similar to each other. And nobody stands out. And that is a massive problem. I don't care if they die. And in fact, when they was getting chased around, I kind of wasn't even really paying that much attention because I don't like movie screens because of the glare around the border. And it's so big, I don't know what part of the movie to focus on. So as I was trying to focus and everything, I'm just like, wait, I can't rewind this to go back to this and that to see what this happens and that happens, and this is happening too quickly. And it's just kind of like, oh, and now they're dead. I'm all like, well, why should I care for them to begin with? Like, who are they? Because you have Tatum, Sydney's daughter, her two female friends. Nothing separates them. They are both similar. The only slight difference is that, oh, and I don't know none of their names. I've got to go to Wikipedia for this. Okay, so Chloe, the other friend, not McKenna Grace, who played Hannah, but the girl Celeste O'Connor, who played Chloe Parker. She's one of Tatum's best friends, right? And just like with Hannah, I don't know nothing about her. Other than one tiny thing. For whatever reason, the dude from Gen V, oh, what's his name? Where's Anna Camp? Okay, her name is, okay, so let me see if I can find her son's name. It might be Aaron. I'm just gonna say Aaron for now, or I'm just gonna say Aaron. So I'm assuming the dude's name is Aaron, the one that Mindy keeps calling Creepy Kid. He told her stop calling him creepy. And Chloe's all like creepy, sexy, and then they go off into like another room. That's the only distinction from about her, is that she finds creepy people sexy. And I'm just kind of like, this isn't helping me. At least with Scream 4 and every other Scream movie, everybody had a very distinct personality. And I don't know why they didn't give nobody a distinct personality in this movie. I had a feeling they were gonna do the nostalgia thing, which they do. There are a lot of callbacks from other movies. And I kinda had a feeling they was gonna play it safe because of all the controversy with the Melissa firing. Which, by the way, Tara is not even mentioned in this movie. Sam is not mentioned by name, but Sam, I forget exactly what they call her, but I think they call her Billy Loomis's love child. And they do mention the events of New York, but they only call it the events of New York. They don't go into detail as to what happened in New York and stuff. And so I'm just kind of like, that's actually, I have three flaws in this. The New York stuff, I'll get to that a little bit later. But my biggest flaws is the killer reveals and how none of these characters are in the slightest interesting or even real characters. They're just kind of there. And that's not just with the new characters, it's some of the legacy characters as well. Gail is barely in the movie. She shows up in the middle, and that's it. After Sydney ditches her to go save her daughter, we don't see Gail again to the very end of the movie. Gail does try to help out, try to figure out who this killer is. And they kind of revert her back a little bit to that Scream 5 and 1, to where she's friendly with Sydney, but then she starts to turn into a major B again and oversteps her boundaries with Sydney. And it's just kind of like, how is Gail barely in this movie? And not only is she barely in this one, have you noticed in the last three movies she's barely been in any of them? Like, she always seems to pop up towards the middle. She's always there to try to figure out who the killer is. And then for whatever reason, she is completely disappears from the movie, except for 5 when she was there at the end scene. But it just felt like she was being tacked on along with Sydney. And I've noticed she's been like barely in any of these movies. Maybe she's has other projects. I don't know. But then there are the Meeks twins, Mindy and Chad, which, oh, of course, Chad lives. I was hoping that dude had finally died. Like, come on, like, kill him off already. And I don't hate his character. It's just, how does he get stabbed over like 20 times and survives 2 movies and doesn't even have a limp? Gail got stabbed in the 4th movie, and she got stabbed in the 6th movie. And she has a little bit of trauma in her fingers for that, like a little twitching. Chad doesn't have nothing. And the weirdest thing about Chad is, like, I could have sworn I saw his throat get slit. He got stabbed in the gut. Then the ghost face grabbed him by the neck, took the knife and peeled around it, and I saw a liquid substance come from his neck. But then at the end of the movie, he's completely alive. And now he's just a little limping because he's hurt from getting stabbed in the gut, and they didn't even go to the hospital. And dude is still alive. But back to Mindy and Chad. They're tacked on to this movie in a really odd kind of way. They are now Gail's camera crew. And I'm just kind of like, in the past 2 movies, when have they ever had an interest in news journalism? I don't recall that. When we first saw Chad, he was a football player. When we saw Mindy, she was just an obsessed, like, movie buff. Also, there's no mention of Mindy being a lesbian in this movie. None. And that was part of her identity for the last two movies, along with being the new Randy, somebody who loves horror movies. Not to mention, not only there's no hint that she's a lesbian in this movie, no love interest, no, oh, I like girls and girls only, oh, you're not my type because you don't have a vagina, none of that. Like, and not only that, but she's very watered down to where she's not even going nutty over movies like she did in the last two. I think because of all the backlash in Scream 6, because everybody agrees that she was annoying in that movie. And she overdid it and over kind of played it and they overwrote it. So this movie, they had her very chill and they watered her down. But the weirdest thing is they had her acting very immature. She's really gleeful and cheerful and giddy and always smiling. And she's acting like a goober. And I'm just kind of like, mentally, they have de-aged her and everything. She doesn't even feel like the way she did in the last two movies. In Scream 5, she was like this cool girl who was like movie obsessed. In the sixth movie, she was just obsessed and got on people's nerves. And in this movie, she's just a smiling fool and everything. Chad's personality is different as well. In the first time he appeared in Scream 5, he was like, you know, a jock and a jerk. The second movie, he started to like Tara, and he acted like a big brother trying to overly protect everybody and stuff. In this movie, he's just kind of there. And he's just kind of like, oh, I don't want to get stabbed again. But he's just kind of there. Now, I'm all for character development and character growth. And so, yeah, I do expect them to have a personality tweaked in every movie, but not to a regression. And then the thing is like, even Gail was the same person in the first two movies, and she was still the same person in the third and the fourth, and she just kept getting nastier and nastier. But then by like fifth and a little bit of sixth, mostly fifth, she was like a completely changed person. She had grown, she had developed. And I don't understand why the legacy characters are barely in the movie and don't get that much progression and everything. Because like when they do show up, like the legacy characters, like the twins and Gail, right? They show up when Sydney and her family's being terrorized by the killer. The killer standing in the street. And you can always tell when somebody's going to get hit by a car in a scary movie. Like when it's a television show and everything, I can never tell. But when it's a movie, oh, I can always tell. There's always that weird feeling right before it. And then bam. And so after that, they come in and they're a little quirky, you know what I'm saying, and a little comedic and everything. They're the ones who add the comedic relief to this overly serious movie, which I am glad is overly serious. I did not appreciate none of that humor in Scream 3, but there was a reason for that because of the Columbine shootings and stuff like that. And so they're there and they do their little quirky twin thing. And so they try to figure out who the killer is. Gail and Sydney do most of the heavy lifting, where the twins just pretty much hang around the young cast. They're now 20-somethings hanging around teenagers, and it reminds me of American Pie 2, when the adults in college went to like a high school party. You know what I'm saying? And so there's a little banter here and there, and not only that, but like they kind of, you know, I think Mindy might suspect. No, she don't really suspect nobody other than creepy guy, but she doesn't do what she normally does. And not only that, but she doesn't like explain the rules. Nobody explains the rules in this movie. It like, you know, there's always that somebody who explains things. Randy explained the rules of the first horror movie, then the sequel, then the trilogy. And so then the fourth movie established the new rules and everything. Then the fifth movie established a requel and everything. Then the sixth movie established a franchise. So what the heck is this one then? Is it just another sequel? And nobody's there to explain any kind of like rules, and I do miss that. That's something that should be in every Scream movie. I understand why it's not in the television show, but it should be at least be in all the movies. After the twins get like attacked with the rest of the young people, and the young people like all die, the twins just completely disappear for the rest of the movie once they get like attacked, and they only show back up in like the very end, and I'm just kind of like, where are you at? Because it made me think they was dead. I'm like, finally Chad is dead. And everything. And then, like I said before, Gail just completely disappears as well. And I just don't get it. Like, Gail is a force to be reckoned with. She is always there to get the scoop. She's more important than getting an interview with Sydney. But you think she would be more concerned about who's trying to kill Sydney in Sydney's family, because, Gail is kind of like Sydney's big sister now. And Gail is just kind of like, whatever, and like, let's get this interview, let's call out this killer, and then just completely disappears until the end of the movie. And I don't get that. But at least we got some type of what happened with Gail after New York. We find out that this is the thing that's always pissed me off, right? When it comes to Scream 5 and 6, I never like radio silence writing. Like, never. There was always something missing, that spark, that Kevin Williamson spark, you know what I'm saying? And like, just something always felt off, right? And then I was expecting in Scream 6, Gail might be grieving over Dewey, but no, she's with her new boyfriend. And so her boyfriend, who we see for like a couple of seconds, but we never get to see them interact. We do find out that Gail, yes, does grieve over Dewey, and she has to tell herself over and over and over. Okay, I forget what she says. I only saw this on one time. It's something she says to cope with herself so she can move on with her life. And she says it about 300 times a day. So at least there's some remorse with her character in regards to Dewey dying, because of the simple fact she just acted completely hollow in Scream 6 and everything. But you think you would have more of her in the movie, and cause we find out she lost her talk show again. And so like, I'm telling you, man, this is exactly like Scream 4. This movie really is Scream 4 just tweaked and everything. And I mean, I'm kind of curious to know why exactly the twins are working with her and stuff. That just seems so left field, out of place. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so, there was something else with Gail, but I forgot. I don't know why I'm forgetting so much now. Normally, after I get through watching a movie, I can remember so much, even if it's my first time watching. But I don't know, maybe I was just so excited. Because I was excited when I left that movie theater and everything. But, you just think there'd be more investigative stuff. Now, when it comes to Sydney, I've always wondered, what is Sydney like as a mother? You know what I'm saying? Like, she lost hers. People have been trying to kill her for 30 years. We don't know what happened to her dad. We don't know how Billy's father treated her after the first movie, because that's never been explained. And we've seen her life for like 6 movies, you know what I'm saying? So it was really curious to see what she's like as like a mother. Now, she is how she always is. She's Sydney. She goes about her day. She's trying to forget the past. she is like, working at a little coffee shop and everything. And she's still that fighter. She's still that survivor and everything. She's still the woman with the loaded guns and will try to shoot the killer and everything, right? So that part has retained with her, which I don't want to see her helpless, but I want to see something slightly different, like what we got with Scream 3. With Scream 3, she was reclusive and everything. She hid from the world, had a fake name. Nobody knew what she looked like at her job, and she helped women who were survivors or who had been, um, harmed by like their lovers and stuff. I like that version of Sydney as to what Sydney's been doing with her life, and I wish they would do something similar with this. But I get she wants to have her happy ending because she deserves it. But I was really curious to see what she was like as a mother, and it's exactly how I thought she would be. She's overly protective and everything, and rightfully so, because she knows what can happen. Now, when it comes to her daughter, they butt heads all through this movie. Her daughter's very moody and everything. And the thing about Sydney and her daughter Tatum is kind of like, how long has this rift been between them? Like they do the whole nostalgia thing of like Tatum's boyfriend coming through the window and says the exact same lines as Billy, because he watches the stab movies and this and that, which, by the way, you don't really get too many people talking about the stab movies, which is kind of refreshing. I'm kind of glad, 'cause I'm tired of hearing about them, but I would like to see some new footage. You know what I'm saying? Now, I get they wanted to do the nostalgia thing, a little Easter egg callback type thing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm okay with that. But it bugged me a little at first. I'm like, whatever, he was just playing around. And so when Sydney comes in and knowing they probably have made out, she could care less because, she did the same thing at her age. And the interaction between her and her husband was really cool. Like, she was really upset when she found out that he actually got laid a whole lot younger than what he said and everything. And she's all like, you lied to me and everything? Because you know how Sydney feels about people who lie to her, because now she thinks, oh, you could probably be the killer. But she never once suspect that he is the killer. Now, what's interesting is, like I said before, the interaction between her and Tatum, they constantly bicker, and Sydney just kind of lets it happen. It's almost like Tatum is always getting one up on her and everything. Like, it's very defiant, very rude, and Sydney just kind of lets it happen for the most part. And I wanted her to be a bit more stern. She's the big mother bear, protective, and won't let the boyfriend be near her and stuff. But I wanted to see more discipline, you know what I'm saying? Like, because it's kind of curious, like, how did Sydney grow up? We really don't know. So is she just laid back like her parents, or were her parents not laid back? So I wanted to see a little interaction with that. Also, I wanted to see her and her daughter do something unkiller related, to show the dynamic of what these two are like in their everyday life. Now, that too, when did the rift start? I assumed it started once, after the whole boyfriend situation and the leather jacket, because she wore Sydney's leather jacket from the second movie. And let me bring this up, because it was like when I heard the last name Evans, I'm like, oh, that's such a callback to either Scream 2 or Scream 3. So Sydney's new last name is Evans, and she does not want to be called Prescott. And so when I heard the name Evans, Mrs. I'm all like, Maureen Evans, Sydney's mother. So that's either Maureen Evans from the second movie, I believe, like Jada Pinkett Smith. And I'm just like, oh, that's such a neat callback and everything, but it's also kind of weird. And so back with the leather jacket. So she's wearing the leather jacket, and this pisses Sydney off. Sydney does not want to be reminded nothing of her past, despite there being several movies, and she even wrote a book about her trauma. Now, the good thing about the town they live in, yes, some people do recognize Sydney for who she is, like from the past, but other people kind of really don't know who she is and don't make a big deal about it. So she gets to live her life in peace. But after all the trauma she's been in, how can you truly live your life in peace? You know what I'm saying? Tatum doesn't seem to know much of nothing about Sydney's past because Sydney refuses to tell her. She refuses to tell her anything about her friends, the killers, her lovers, the meaning of why the jacket's so special, the meaning of the name Tatum. She doesn't even know nothing about Sydney's former best friend. And she's all like, how can you name me after like a victim who died in a garage and everything? Like, and it's just kind of weird that Sydney wouldn't tell her daughter nothing. Because you think, after all Sydney's been through, she would prepare her daughter for the eventual meeting of a ghost face. But I guess since Sydney has been in peace for about 15, 16 years and nothing has happened, then like she doesn't feel the need. But then of course there's the events of New York, which the events of New York seem to have taken place not that long ago. And so, but you think Sydney will mention something, or at least Sydney will teach her daughter how to fight or how to use a gun. Her daughter can't fight, her daughter can't use a gun, and her daughter doesn't even know about the crawl space in their like home, or the gun that's hidden in Sydney's office in her like little coffee shop thing. And it's just kind of like, how in the world has Sydney not prepared her daughter for this? You'd think that would be the first thing she would do, especially after being married to that of a cop. So I find it weird that Sydney hasn't done none of that. Now, Kevin Williamson is not the head writer of this movie. He's only like a co-writer and everything. And I think, let's see if I can find this dude's name. The story is by Guy Busick and James Vanderbilt. And that's what the story is by. And the screenplay was written by that Guy Busick. Why does that name sound familiar? And so, not to mention, like, how has Tatum never seen like a stab movie? Like, has she? She doesn't mention none of them. Like, you think she would have saw them. Now, of course, Sydney's not gonna let her see it, but she has friends, and teenagers can always sneak and like watch things. You know what I'm saying? Or how is it she doesn't contact the twins and be like, "Hey, tell me about my mom or Gail?" Which, by the way, the twins and Sydney's interaction, it barely happened. Like, I don't really remember them saying much to each other. It's like she doesn't know them and everything. And that's how it also was in Scream 5. They just seemed like complete strangers to her. Now, the twins, their brotherly, sisterly thing is a whole lot better in this movie than it's been in the other movies. And maybe, the fifth movie, it was okay because they bickered and everything. The sixth movie, I need to rewatch. I haven't saw that in a while. But, in this movie, you can really tell, hey, they're twins and everything. They're brother and sister and everything, you know? But I'm still just kind of confused as to their personalities and everything. Oh, my bad. Lucas. That's the dude's name from Gen V and everything. Like, the one who's like creepy and everything. He's like the only person obsessed with what happened on Woodsboro and everything. Which at least somebody is in this movie. So you do kind of think that he might be like a potential killer or something like that, right? And so don't worry, I'm going to get through all the stuff I didn't like in the movie, then I'm going to talk about the stuff I did like. And so let's see, the last two things that I don't really like is one of the AI stuff with Stu. Now, when I heard they were gonna do AI, I was wondering what they were gonna do. But then I'm all like, maybe they'll use like AI voices and really mess with Sydney's head. You know what I'm saying? Having all these past like Ghostface come back, but they did the whole AI video thing. Now, this entire movie is basically a ruse, a red herring. They really, really, really want you to think that Stu is alive, which I already figured he was not. Because I want him to be as dead as dead. I don't want him to come back like Kirby, which, hey, where is Kirby, by the way? You know what I'm saying? But I don't want him coming back like Kirby. Because I feel like, hey, look, you gotta remember how the 90s TVs were. They was big and they was heavy. That thing can crush your head. Now from a high distance, it will flatten your head. But that was not no high distance. So it just pretty much smacked the crap out of him. But the glass shattered and he got electrocuted. Which, yes, you can live through electrocution, but come on, let that kill be a kill. Because that was a cool way to die. You know what I'm saying? But they really, really, really have played on like Kevin Williamson always kind of like hinting he might be like alive. And not only him, but Radio Silence. And of course the fans. But, you know, they try way too hard with that. From podcasts to people speculating to Gail calling the mortuary and finding out the coroner never dropped the body off, his body at the coroner place, the morgue where we call it, and that she died 3 years ago. So even though Stu is just an AI thing, Kevin Williamson and whoever that guy dude is, they have still planted the seeds that Stu might be alive. Now, with all that, if Stu is alive, you know, I get it. I mean, if they were gonna play it safe, screw that. Go deep. Go for the net. Go for something. Go for something big. Like they should have had Stu being the mastermind, and he should have had a cult of Ghostface killers, which is something I theorized a few years back. That would have been an excellent thing. You gotta stop and think about it. People are pissed because of the whole Melissa thing. People have been boycotting the crap out of this. Her newfound fan base have been threatening people online and everything, lying about like Nev Campbell and everything, and just kind of whatever they can do to make people hate this movie. And they ruined the movie for a lot of people online by leaking the reveals of the killer, which is why Thursday, I stayed my behind offline and I muted as much stuff as possible because I knew I was going to go see it the next day. And I did not want to be spoiled like I did all those years ago. And so they should have went bigger with the reveals because that was really going to sell it. You know what I'm saying? Because for the most part, everything that I saw in the movie was cool. Even the quiet moments were cool. It's just those killer reveals suck. And so they really should have had him play. Now, I do like the fact that every time Tatum would be somewhere sneaking out or just be at school, he was always there, the killer and everything, right? Like, and that freaked Sydney out and made her run to her child. Now, I do miss Ghostface voice. I miss the calls and everything. They tried to do something different with the AI and had the killer just do an AI video thing of Stu. I get it. It just wasn't done properly, in my opinion. It should have been bigger. It should have been bolder. And it should have been more people. You have to play with Sydney's mind. You have to screw it up. Because remember, she is easily triggered by her past. They should have had not only former Ghostface, but they should have had the victims as well. Sydney feels horrible because she's lost so many people she's cared about and random people she just don't even really know that well. And they really should have went there to really make Sydney go insane in the head. And they did not do that, and that pissed me off. Like when they started the show, like, and it's weird. Why would you show Stu but not show Billy Loomis? That would have really got her. You know what I'm saying? And I get it because they did the Billy Loomis like hallucination, but I hated those hallucinations. That's one of the reasons why I hate Scream 5, the hallucinations and stuff. But they should have done the hallucination thing. And like, no, I'm not the hallucination. They should have went the whole Billy Loomis thing because that really would have got her. Not only that, they should have brought in Jill, and because Jill is her cousin who literally tried to become the new Sydney, which once again, this movie is very similar to Scream 4. But Scream 4 was done a heck of a lot better, even though it did not make that much money. But it's still a fan favorite. And they should have brought in her mother. Oh my God. Could you imagine? She would have flipped her lid if she saw her mother and everything. But instead, they just had Roman, they had Stu, they had Mrs. Loomis, and they had Dewey. Why would you have a bunch of Ghostface people but then bring in Dewey? And Dewey should have been saved for Gale. Since Gale talking about, losing Dewey is really upsetting. Instead of the killer calling in, they should have just had Dewey show up. That would have, they had so much good potential. And they was terrified. This is why I don't trust, like, that dude who owns Paramount Plus, or Paramount, because it's kind of like, they give instructions to the people who makes movies and stuff, which is why we're not getting no Ninja Turtle Last Ronin movie. They're going to go the kid-friendly route because of SpongeBob and everything. They play it too freaking safe over there. And, so yeah, the AI thing just really didn't it just did not do it for me at all. It was nice to see Matthew Lillard back, but it just didn't do nothing at all. And not only that, but the prosthetics they used on his face were weird. I've seen people photoshopped him better as older with scars on his face. Now for the last thing that really bugged me. And this is the ultimate thing that bugged me. There are 3 Ghostface killers in this movie. One we only see for 5 seconds and he never says nothing, but he gives an evil stare. And fans have kind of speculated about they speculate about these 3 people. 2 guys because of how creepy they look, and Anna Camp because for the longest time, nobody really knew who she was playing. And for the longest time, nobody knew who McKenna Grace was playing. And I thought McKenna Grace was going to be a bigger character, but she wasn't. She was one of the first kills and everything after the opening kill. But the 3 new killers are Anna Camp's character, Carl, who we only get to see for 5 seconds, and he ordered coffee, and Marco, orderly who works in an insane asylum. And so this is the problem I'm having with these reveals, right? When we saw the trailers, and even when you watch the movie, Ghostface literally seems to know Sydney very, very well. Talking about this goes all the way back to the beginning. So it's kind of like, cool. Who in her high school have we never seen or saw and never thought it was such a big deal? Who could be probably from the second movie, probably? Who could it be? And it has to be something tied to Stu because they keep marketing this movie about Stu and everything like that. Not to mention, Ghostface burnt down Stu's old home. That's kind of like a B&B museum type thing, a role-playing thing. What was the point in burning that house down? Because it led to absolutely nothing other than the speculation that Stu might be alive, which, okay, I get that. But to us fans, don't trick us fans, man. Trick the characters, but don't trick us. Because when you trick us, then we get pissed and then we start ranting about a movie. And so Burning down that house was one of the most beautiful things I ever saw in the Scream franchise, especially when Ghostface held up that match. I gotta find a good picture of that. And but that led to absolutely nothing. So when it comes to the three killers, right? Carl, he is a murderer who was in a insane asylum, and he is the one who did the majority of the kills in the first, like, I guess you could say, half. He's the one who did the kills at the beginning of the movie, and he is the one who snuck into like Sydney's home, hid in the attic, and like terrorized her family until he got ran over by Gale. And we don't know really nothing about him other than he was in the Salem asylum. And so the reveal of him was just kind of like, who the heck is this guy? Like, seriously, who is he and why is he after her and stuff? Because he's older. The two men are like much older, and the one female is kind of like, I don't know, maybe 30s, 40s, something like that. But anyway, so there is a red herring with him that he knew Stu as John Doe. Stu supposedly was in the same asylum and they bonded and everything. And it's his drawings on the wall, but those drawings lead to absolutely nothing. So I don't know why they was in the trailer. I hate that misdirection. Trick the character, don't trick your audience and everything. And so I don't know if it was him or the fake Stu person, but somebody, he must have been obsessed with the Stab movies because Tori Spelling has the craziest cameo in here where her picture of blonde hair is on one of their walls and stuff, right? And of course, she originally played Sidney Prescott in the Stab movies before they changed it up in the third. Funny story. Tori Spelling said that she auditioned for Sidney in the first like Scream movie, but she didn't get it because her acting wasn't that great. Which, if you've ever seen her projects, yeah, they're not that great. She was okay on 90210, but other than that, whew. And she was upset that they recasted her character in the third movie. So, other than this dude, we don't know nothing about this guy. And for the first time, the second time, this is a Ghostface killer that we know nothing about whatsoever. The first one was the roommate guy, the college student, in the sixth movie. And so since they did that in the sixth movie, don't repeat it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Unless it's really gonna add up to something. Or unless he's kind of in the movie but always lingering in the background, you know? Marco is the second killer and who did the majority of the killings for pretty much the rest of the movie. And he's the orderly who worked at the insane asylum. So he helped, what's his name, escape. And we don't know his motive either. Now we do get a scene with him, a dialogue scene, because he's the one who gave us the red herring about Stu. Also, he specializes in AI. But other than that, why does he want to kill Sydney and why does he want to kill the rest of them? It makes absolutely no sense. And I need a motive and a good motive at that. Now, the mastermind happens to be Jessica, Sydney's neighbor and Aaron's mom. Aaron is the creepy one, remember? And when it comes to Jessica, this was like really, really shocking because I'm just like, okay, who's the killer? Who's the killer? Who's the killer? Because she's barely in this movie and she only has 2 scenes with Sydney. And those 2 scenes she had with Sydney are pretty much the only scenes she has in the movie other than her killer reveal. And so it's kind of almost like a Mrs. Loomis type thing, to where you don't suspect she's the killer. But the thing with Mrs. Loomis, you saw her all throughout the movie. Here, you don't really see her. Now, you would never suspect her because how nice and friendly she is and stuff, right? Her reasoning for wanting to do all this is kind of similar to Jill's, which once again, the fourth movie. See, she was in a relationship with a guy, and I don't know what happened with the relationship, but she got very inspired by Sidney, by what she did to Billy Loomis when she killed him and everything. I don't know if she was inspired by the Stab movies or Sidney's book. If it's Sidney's book, then it has to take place in the fourth movie. So that means that she will have to have her son around the same time Sidney did, because they both go to school together. And so she killed her boyfriend or husband or whatever the heck he was. So she's basically a huge Sidney fan, and Sidney inspires her. And that's the motive right there. And so after killing him, she went to an insane asylum. Which means, when did she have her son? Before that or after that? You'd think he would have mentioned, hey, I was born in an insane asylum. People are born in jail. And so this is how she met Marco, and this is how she met Carl and everything. And you would have to think about the logic of all this. If Carl was revealed to be the killer, it was revealed he was at an insane asylum, don't you think the police, like Sidney's husband, would have went to the insane asylum and found out or contacted them and found out, hey, who all was this guy friendly with when he was in the insane asylum? Ding, ding, ding. Then those two would have came up. Similar to the whole Richie family situation. One phone call, that's all it takes. And so, she wants to make a Sidney 2.0. I guess for a newer generation and everything. And so she doesn't need the original copy no more. And this is why she kept going after Tatum, because she wanted to draw Sidney out. Here's the thing that doesn't make no effing sense. She doesn't have to use Tatum to draw out Sidney. Sidney is her neighbor. That's seriously, boom, boom, boom. That's all it takes. Walk out the front door. Boom, boom, boom. That's all it takes. You know what I'm saying? She could have got Sidney at any point in time. Not only that, Sidney's family has security cameras all around their house. Sidney family has security codes to get to the security alarm and everything. How did she find that out? It is never explained in the movie, because they stated that the killer knows the entire layout of Sidney's home. She's been there before. That's how she knows. But how did she get the code? Never brought up in the movie. And here's the thing. I get it. It's a slasher movie. You don't gotta explain everything. But this is not the 80s, 70s, or 60s, or the 90s no more. You gotta start explaining some things. Now, who exactly does she want to make Sidney 2.0? That's the part I'm not quite sure, and I'll have to rewatch the movie. But I don't like going to the movie theaters because my tinnitus and everything. And I forgot my earplugs. I do plan on buying this on DVD. So I'll probably figure out then, or I can just probably Google it or something like that. Was she trying to turn herself into Sidney 2.0 or Tatum into Sidney 2.0? I'm not quite sure. Because Jill tried to turn herself into Sidney 2.0 and have a bunch of fans and everything. So I am wondering, who all did she kill? And she was willing to sacrifice her own son. Talking about, he looked too much like his father anyway. But she couldn't have killed her son because whoever killed her son had to have the strength to pick up a grown teenage boy. And that's Marco right there. Now, when it comes to Anna Camp's Jessica character, I wonder, is there any kind of inside joke, meta like humor to her actual personal dating life and everything? Because, Jessica, she killed her abusive husband and everything, right? And she didn't even care if her son died. Now, the thing about Anna Camp is that she was once married to two men. Her last husband was her Pitch Perfect co-star, right? Since I can't talk, divorcing, what's wrong with my mouth? Both her husbands, she has now come out the closet as a lesbian and is now in a relationship with a woman, saying this is the best relationship she's ever been in her entire life. And I'm just kind of like, wow, so every other person you dated was just like that horrible, huh? And I remember because I follow her on Instagram, some woman, an actress who I also follow, I can't remember who it is, but she said something negative towards men. And Anna Camp had actually liked that comment. So I wonder if this was some kind of like, in humor, kind of like inside joke type thing about like her feelings towards men. Because this is the first male-female killer duo that doesn't have no kind of intimate relationship. Like, let's see, we have like two completely different groups of male-female, like, killers from the Scream franchise, movie-wise, that is, that are like, secretly dating. Even in the television show, there are two also other separate groups of male-female killers that are secretly dating as well. The only time a male-female duo hasn't dated was in the second movie with Mickey and Mrs. Loomis, but they did have kind of a surrogate mother like son type of dynamic and everything. So that's type of a relationship, not the type of dating relationship. But here, Jessica's not dating none of the like male like killers and stuff. And in fact, her and Marco was starting to argue a little bit about who is the real mastermind. I wish they would have went there and had two Ghostface like killers just try to like fight each other, because we've never seen that before. Because I was just kind of like, yeah, keep building on this argument, but then it just got squashed like really early. Now, things I actually like about this movie. First, let me give it up to Kevin Williamson for carrying on this franchise, and following in the footsteps of Wes Craven. I think for his second direct movie and everything, because he's only directed, this is the second movie he's ever directed, he did a pretty good job. There are some scenes that I absolutely love, like when McKenna Grace's character Hannah is on like the harness and Ghostface is trying to slash at her and finally does. We get that beautiful blue light and her just like floating on by or swinging on by. That is one of the most gorgeous shots I've ever seen in this franchise. Also, the fire scene in the beginning of the movie, that was just amazing. I also like the opening kills. At first, I was like, okay, this is kind of corny. Here we go with the jokes and everything. But it makes sense, especially when you see how serious this movie is. Here's a guy who's obsessed with the whole stab thing. He's in Stu Macher's house and everything. He's pranking his girlfriend. She's not having it. And there is that big, like, okay, there's an animatronic like Ghostface. But then at some point in time, when they're in the other rooms, the real Ghostface comes in and switches places and everything. And that's such a good thing because you're expecting it, especially because you saw the trailer, but you're expecting it and everything. I also really love the like third act chase sequence. I don't like how Sydney ran from the TV studio back to her home. Come on now, I hate when characters do that. I hate that so much. The couple next door did that, and I hated that crap. But I love the whole chase sequence with the whole like third act of Tatum and everything. Like, running in the streets at night, and then you get this overhead scene, like it starts to zoom out, and her, like, I think screaming for help or screaming for her mom or something like that. She's really terrified. I wish they would have done an overhead shot, and I wish they would have shown both killers coming at her at the same time, like Agent Smith style in the Matrix, or have a ghost face coming at her as it's doing the overhead scene. That would have been a heck of a lot better. Now, as to why the entire street was empty, that makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, it's a curfew. Come on now. Man, I remember when COVID had that curfew. There were still people driving around and everything. And so like I also love the like crawl space safe room part. That was so terrifying. It's a cramped, small place that they had to wedge themselves through, and they had to be as quiet as possible. Here just comes Ghostface, tapping along, trying to get some little echolocation, and then once they make a noise, just start like stabbing at the walls and everything. Only for Sydney, the fighter that she is, to get like I think like a baseball bat and bend his knife. Only for him to get that little poker thing from the fireplace and stab her in the arm. Honestly, I thought Sydney probably could have died this movie. Like that's how scary it got. I seriously thought she might have died and everything, and then Tatum would have to take over for the middle part and the rest of the franchise and stuff. I also love like the fighting. I love when Sydney fought off like Ghostface. I love when Mark fought off Ghostface. I love the spine tingling fear and suspense every time Ghostface showed up. Because like like sometimes it'll be complete darkness and all of a sudden Ghostface will come out the shadows and you'll just see the mask and then it'll go back in the shadows, stalking like his victims and everything, overpowering them. Like you seriously just never knew who was gonna survive that kill. And a lot of people look like they got, but once again, they let a lot of people live in this movie. I also, my bad. It was nice to also to hear Roger's voice again. Which one more thing about Scream 4. These are the only two times Ghostface has ever cussed anybody out, which reminds me so much of Scream 4. Oh, let's see what else. It was nice to see Mark Consuelos in this movie, but he was wasted in this movie. I was like, what is he gonna do? How is he in this movie? He's just a news reporter and everything. I love how Sydney is Sydney. She's come such a long way. I've said this before. She is the ultimate final girl. In the first movie, she started off all nice and happy and chipper until the movie got serious, and then she kept getting serious with each movie that came after. And I get why so many newer movies try to have the next Sydney Prescott. The Strangers the trilogy, they tried to have Maya be the new Sydney. Boy, it did not work out. I gotta talk about that third movie. I saw that. Ooh, boy. And so, um, it was nice to get a couple of callbacks from the older movies, the music, the like two final girls turning around shooting the crap out of like Ghostface and everything at the same time. So Scream 2, that was so cool when they did it in Scream 2. Yeah, it is a callback to the older movie, but it's Sydney and her daughter, you know what I'm saying? So that was nice. I also like Tatum for the most part. Like, it always made me wonder, why the heck does she have blonde hair? And I still don't know why. But I'm glad she's not a carbon copy of the original Tatum. Yes, she is moody, and that is getting kind of tired, like a moody teenager and stuff. I wish she would have had more spark to her, more pizzazz, more fire, you know what I'm saying? More grit. Because, like, she's just a moody, complaining teenager. Tara was a heck of a lot better of a teenager. She had grit to her. But this is just the stepping stones, the building blocks of this Tatum. Hopefully, they will build her up to be as strong as Sydney and everything. You know, so and also I'm glad she's not entirely like Sydney because Sydney's no longer really scared of Ghostface coming after her. She's more scared of Ghostface going after her loved ones like she was with Jill and also now with her daughter and everything. You know, Sydney really didn't care about herself. She was more, well, actually, she is she, nah, to tell you the truth, she was more like when it came to Jill, she literally sacrificed herself by being like a red herring and a distraction so that Jill can get away and Ghostface and chase after her. She didn't do that in this movie, but um oh no, wait, she did. At one point, no, wait, she did. But she put her daughter in a safe place, and then she went to go fight the killer. But I forgot what happened after that. Anyway, because Sydney's not really scared of Ghostface for herself no more, it was nice to see Tatum terrified because she's been acting like this grumpy, pissed off teenager and everything, all tough. And then here come Ghostface, and she turned into a crying, screaming little girl. And the Scream franchise needs that. You can't have everybody be tough and loaded with a gun. Dewey, Gale, and Sydney was always like that. They was always like locked and loaded and never really truly scared after a while. So you always need that younger cast to be scared. And I love how terrified she was with her chase sequence. Like, she really impressed me because I wasn't really feeling her character too much. But I'm like, okay, yeah, she could probably pull this off if she has to take over the franchise. And like I said before, those chase sequences were really good. I haven't really felt this intense by a chase sequence since like Scream 1 and 2. And also Tara in the hospital. That was really good. I also like the kills. Yes, they use CGI, and I hate that. But there's nothing nobody can do about that. It's just something that's been going on for the past 10, 15 years in Hollywood. You just gotta get used to it, you know what I'm saying? You gotta pick your battles sometimes. It would have been better they would use practical blood, but you know. And some of the kills were kind of horror movie sequel-ish, you know what I'm saying? Like something out of Halloween or Friday the 13th or something like that. And didn't really fit Scream unless it was a television series. Boy, that television series has some great kills and everything. But I am glad they are getting creative with their kills because how often will Ghostface just slash and gas somebody, you know? And like, I do wonder, like, how long can this franchise truly go on before it's just to the point where even the hardcore fans are like, all right, we had enough. You know what I'm saying? Because I said this before, at some point in time, they're going to have to put a cap on this franchise and just end it, you know? Because it's getting to the point where all the killer motivations just aren't good no more. And they're repeating each other. How many times has it been a family member who has like sought out revenge on Sydney? You know what I'm saying? Way too many. And now here we go with the whole Sydney 2.0 thing again. And they either need to get really creative or just end it. This will actually be a pretty good ending point because everybody has their happy ending now, you know? And so, but like I said before, there's so many good like killer reveals they could have done. They could have did the whole Stu and a cult of like Ghostface and he being the ringleader. I also said this before. They could have had the twins be Ghostface and have their mom be the mastermind because they're all pissed about the whole Randy thing. Because remember, Randy did not die because he made fun of Billy Loomis. He died because he followed Sydney around like a love puppy and everything. He even went to her college that she went to, following her, hoping to date her and everything. If he never did all that and never like follow her around in the first movie, he would have been alive. Because think about it, they were gonna kill him in the first movie, Billy and Stu, but then he survived and everything. So they could have been pissed off. She's pissed off her brother's dead, and the twins are pissed off about an uncle they will have never met. Or they could have done it to where, like I said just a few weeks ago, what if Tatum and her friends, I can't talk, Tatum and her friends did something so horrible, like a prank that ended up killing somebody, that Ghostface came after them, and Ghostface will actually be justified for the first time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that would have been so cool. Or this old theory I had about 2 years ago. This is back when everybody just thought that McKenna Grace and Isabel were going to be twins, which they should have been. I don't know why they made her have 3 kids, like 2 twins that we get to have a cameo of. At least we finally got to see them, even though it was just one actress playing the same person. But like, when the heck did Sydney make Tatum? Like, seriously, they never explained that. And I said this before, back when it was the whole twin thing. Like, have 2 ghost faces be in completely separate locations, right? And they call up Sydney and they tell Sydney, yo, make a choice. Pick your favorite twin and we will kill the other. And if you don't, we will kill both of them. Sydney picks her favorite twin, but what she doesn't know is that Ghostface has swapped the twins. So after the favorite ends up dying, the least favorite is pissed off and joins Ghostface. You gotta try something new and you gotta go big and bold because this franchise is starting to get very stale. Still good, but they're running out of ideas. And like I said before, I am extremely happy and glad Nev came back and they finally paid her the money she is due because she has truly helped this franchise. The studios, the past studios that used to own this and everything, she deserved this. And I also liked that whole meta commentary of why Nev just wasn't in the last Scream movie. You know, in the movie, Sydney's all like, she wished she would have been in New York. She wished she would have helped out and all this other stuff. That is so meta on a different level because everybody knows she wanted to come back, but she felt like, why do men get paid so much more money to return to franchises and women don't? You know, she has worked hard for decades and everything. She has done something that most people in Hollywood wish they could have, a franchise and everything. And, you know, and I remember I was watching The View, I think this week or last week, and Joy Behar, Lord have mercy, Joy. Joy don't care. Joy is like 83 years old, and she just does not care no more. And she straight up asked Nev Campbell, you know, I know you like walked away from your franchise and everything because you wasn't paid like, you know, what you felt like you was due. Do you like regret it? Nev kind of just paused for a while. Like first she was all happy and chipper. Then she had a serious look on her face and just paused. I don't think she was expecting that question. And she straight up told like how she felt, you know. She felt like she did the right thing. They didn't pay her what she felt that she deserved, and you know, and they did, and now she's back and everything, you know. So to wrap this up, let me just point out that I also saw Nev in The Craft. I forgot about that. But What Scream 7 writers should have done was pull a Halloween. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, Halloween has at least four separate continuities, mainly because Jamie Lee Curtis kept not wanting to come back. So they had to keep going in a different direction. And then at one point, there was a complete reboot with Rob Zombie. So Rob Zombie's continuity, let's just say, forget that for now. And then you have three continuities. One that, establishes Jamie Lee Curtis' character and her daughter. Then you have the one that established her original daughter, like the young one, because her character died. And so then you have the other continuity with Jamie Lee Curtis' character and her son. And then you have the newer continuity with Jamie Lee Curtis, her new daughter and granddaughter. This is what Scream 7 should have been. So they should have had two separate continuities. You can have the continuity from, let's say, 5 and 6 that introduce a new cast and went in a different direction. So Scream 1 all the way to 6 is like an alternate timeline continuity. Then Scream 1 through 4 and Scream 7 is the prime timeline continuity. That way everybody should be happy because, Spyglass isn't going to own Scream for the rest of their lives, And let's say a new company buys out the rights to Scream. That way, they can bring back Melissa Barrera because there's no reason for her to say no then because Spyglass is not associated with it. Then all those Melissa fans and everything and her new acquired fans who only like her because of her political views but have no idea who she is, they can have their Scream movies and everything. And then the Scream fans can have like the Sydney, movies and stuff. That way, Scream 7 should have reintroduced the twins, brought Judy and Dewey back to life. And it all works out that way. That wasn't that spooky. Alright, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.